What's good, Fight family, and welcome back to another episode of Combat X with Alan Dawson on Roku, Amazon Prime, YouTube, Zumo, Vizio, Sling, and Fubo. Joining me today is a recent Golden Boy Promotions acquisition, a rising star in the super lightweight division, and a fighter returning to the ring for Latino night on Riyadh season, Kenneth Sims, the boss man. Welcome to the show, Ken.
How you doing? Thanks for having me.
So I was at your Golden Boy debut earlier in the summer. It was a 5th round stoppage win in Las Vegas. But rewinding further, what attracted you to working with Bernard Hopkins, Oscar De La Hoya, and Eric Gomez, joining the stable they've got?
It was just meeting, talking over the phone, just going back and forth, and the things they were telling me sounded the best to me with all the other offers I had. It just seemed like they wanted the same thing I wanted, which was activity and big fights. So it was the best situation I thought for myself, and so far so good. They've kept their word about everything that they told me before we signed, so I look forward to a long partnership.
I was just going to say, because that fight that I mentioned, that was only 2 months ago. You're fighting again in 1 month, so it's 3 fights in 2 months already.
Yeah, so that was my main thing. I wanted to be active. I wanted to be seen. I wanted to just be out and get my name out there so people can remember like what I'm capable of, because I was off for 16 months before that, so I didn't have time to waste.
I mean, you've previously mentioned fighting Ryan Garcia. It'd be a stablemate at Golden Boy, seemingly a bout that could be easy to make if everybody wanted it. Why Ryan? Why have you kind of singled him out as a potential, future opponent to showcase what the boss man's all about?
I mean, I don't want to say I single him out. I just, I don't know. People keep asking me about that. I don't know. Like, if I get asked about it, I won't shy away from it, because it's a big opportunity. He's a big name in the sport, but I'm not really singling him out. I want any of the top guys. So he's one of the top guys. So it'll probably, if that was to happen, it'll probably be at a catch weight or something. But I got to worry about what I got November 16th. But I'm not like singling him out. Anybody that's, I guess, in the position or close to the position that I'm at or that I want to be at, I'm willing to fight. Like, even on the card that I'm on, the co-main is Jose Ramirez and Arnold Barboza, so even guys like that. But I have to take care of Oscar Duarte first, and we'll see where it goes from there. I mean,
we can talk about a few things. I mean, Oscar Duarte was definitely someone I wanted to bring up. He's obviously fought Ryan, and I remember back then people thought that was a risky fight for Ryan, because Oscar's this Mexican guy who can punch, he can bang pretty hard. He's also fought Pedro Diaz. What do you make of him? What can you take away from the fights he's had recently? And how you can work your game to get the win?
I think he's a tough fighter. He's a puncher. He's aggressive. He's gonna come to fight. I think he hasn't fought anyone like close to what I bring to the table. He's aggressive. I know how he's gonna come. He's gonna come straight at me. It's like that's the only chance he has in the fight like this against me, because of my style and what I'm capable of. So I expect a tough fight. I expect him to come ready. 12 round. It's a 12-round fight, so if we go in the whole 12, I'm prepared. If I could somehow get him out of there, I'm prepared for that too. But whatever it takes to get the win, that's what I'm willing to do.
This is happening in Riyadh as well. It's a Turkey Al Sheikh show, joint venture with Golden Boy. I was at the kickoff presser recently in Los Angeles. It was in a really cool theater downtown LA.
Yeah, it was cool. Yeah.
They had a mariachi band there playing like Rocky theme. Even that presser had big fight feel, but then you put it on a stage like they have in Riyadh season. To me, it seems like it could be another Cinco de Mayo and Mexican Independence Day, but obviously it's on November. The flavor of the event seems big. How ready are you for this big stage?
I'm ready for any stage. As long as it's a boxing ring, I'm at home. It doesn't matter where country it's in. It doesn't matter what the name of the night is. It doesn't matter. As long as it's a boxing ring, I feel at home. So I'm just ready to go out there and do what I do.
Speaking of home, I know you're from Chi-Town. I've not been there yet, but when I think of it, I think of deep dish pizza, Al Capone, and the rapper Common. I also know it's from what I've heard, a pretty tough city. So what was it like for you growing up in Chicago?
For me growing up personally, it was, I had my parents. They kept me grounded. I grew up in rough neighborhoods. Like my whole life we was in rough neighborhoods, but everybody in the neighborhood, they knew who I was. Like they knew, oh, that's Kenny, boxes, blah, blah. Like I never had really any problems with like the things that people see on the internet and stuff. Like I guess from where the culture that I'm from, they would say that those like the street kind of stuff, they always looked out for the athletes, or they always wanted the guys that were doing something with their life to like be successful. That's how I felt. Like I always had the support of like, even though I was in a rough neighborhood, I always felt like I had people that knew, oh, that's Kenny. Like they knew my dad. They know that's Kenny's son. They know he's a boxer and he gonna do something with his life. So I never really had the problem that people see on the internet and see on the TV about the city of Chicago. Because to me, Chicago is the best city in the world. I love it.
What do you love most about it?
Everything. I love the food. I love we have our own culture, like, and just being like I live and breathe Chicago. Like I rep Chicago to the fullest any chance I get.
So I know you want to bring a world title to Chicago. What would be the ideal arena, for you to fight in your home city?
Oh, we got a couple of the wins. We got the United Center. That's where the Bulls play. So
yeah,
that's where I've been seeing my whole life. But we got the Wintrust Arena, the United Center. One of those is I would love to fight at one of those, bring a fight to Chicago. That's really one of my goals, is to bring a big fight to the city.
I mean, this is actually in honor of you. Normally I film in front of a green screen, but do you recognize this at all? Because this is at the
end.
Yeah. Do you go jogging over there or anything?
Sometimes, actually.
Yeah, so, you fly the flag for Chicago boxing, but, I think even, 10 years ago, there were two of you rising through the ranks together. Ed Brown, friend of yours, died from gunshots in 2016. That was your friend, Kenneth. I can't help but feel like if you were bringing a world title to Chicago, is that kind of like a motivation to kind of keep alive the memory of a close friend of yours, who was an esteemed boxer in his own right, seemingly destined for world level too?
Yeah, absolutely. I always say that, like, I knew this was his dream. Also, like, we grew up together. Ed would go to all the national tournaments. He would ride with me and my parents. He called I don't even call him my friend. I've never called him my friend. I always say my big brother, because he was like literally my brother. He called my mom. He called my dad pops. Like, that was literally my big brother. So he got killed. He was 20-0, so he was close. He was on the cusp, and I just feel like I'm doing this for me and him. Like, even his trainer George Hernandez, whenever he sees me in Chicago at the gym or something, or like at a little amateur show or something, he always say like, yeah, I'm doing this for Ed, and Ed would be proud of me, because that's my big brother. So I always do this in his memory.
When did you meet Ed?
We met at, I don't remember if it was state silver gloves or state junior Olympics, but one of those. And I don't really remember how it happened, but we both won, and then somehow he ended up riding to the regionals with me and my parents, which was in Nebraska, and that was the first trip he took with us. And ever since then, we was like just connected. That was my first time going like to a tournament like that. So I can remember that was 2005.
So a lot of your time together, was it like traveling the country, doing like national amateur championships?
Yeah, all over the country going. Like I remember my first time getting on a plane was to Mesquite, Nevada, to the Junior Golden Gloves, and he was with us.
I was thinking, like, I can't have been reading your box rec, right? Because it looks like you've never had a pro fight in Chicago.
Oh, I haven't. I haven't had an amateur fight in Chicago since I was like 16, so never. That's why it's so important to me to bring a fight there.
Is it something Golden Boy have teased at all?
I haven't talked to him about it. I plan on asking him about it after this fight, though.
What's the fan base like in Chicago? I've been in Vegas, Los Angeles, a couple of fights in Florida, but each kind of city you're in, there's a kind of different flavor, and some fans turn up earlier in the night, some fans are louder. What's the fan base? What's the boxing fan base or fighting fan base anyway? In Chicago, like?
Yeah, that's the thing. You don't even know because we haven't had anything in a long time. So I wouldn't even be able to answer that question because we absolutely don't know. But I think the people would come out. Like even when I fought in Vegas, I think I surprised them because I had a lot of people here. Like even after the fight, when Beto interviewed me after the fight, he was like, "Whoa, you got a lot of people here," because my people would travel. So I can only imagine if I was fighting at home, it would be packed.
And we talked about Ryan earlier. I know you got your eyes on more than just Ryan, but he had a big fight earlier this year against Devin Haney. I thought it was like an incredible performance, but then after the fact, we find that drug testers found Ostarine in Garcia's system. If you did fight Ryan, would you have any concerns that there would still be any lingering after effects from anything that has been found in his system? Or, do you think a fighter like that should have to submit to additional testing if they've already popped dirty? Because, Haney's suing Garcia now, and it seems like, Garcia's only been banned for a year. Some fighters only fight once a year anyway. There could be an argument that, someone like Haney is taking the kind of justice into his own hands if he feels like the sport hasn't really delivered on that front. What's your take on, kind of that whole situation?
I think it's a complicated situation. I think it's a sticky situation. I don't condone cheating at all, so I don't think. Like after the fight, I was doing interviews and I would see people like just taking up for him, which made no sense to me. Like I don't care what the substance was, we're not supposed to have it. So I feel like I don't understand the backlash that Haney gets from that, because he didn't do anything wrong. Ryan was the one that did something wrong. So everybody, like, I don't know, bashing Devin Haney for that made no sense to me.
I mean, he also, like, something I think people kind of forget is that he also weighed in 3 pounds over.
And that's a lot. I think people that don't box, that not involved in the sport, they don't understand how much a 3 pound difference makes.
I think it's always like, if you are making weight for any weight division, but you're in the 140 weight class, is the hardest pound to lose.
Oh yeah, the last couple are the hardest ones. So it's like Ryan didn't have to drain himself, because he just stopped when he felt like it was going. That last couple is hard. That's the hardest part. He didn't have to do the hardest part.
So to me, you're in a pretty strong, network, not only on a promotional side, with Eric's a really good deal maker, Oscar, love him or hate him, he's like an incredible front man for a business. B-Hop as well, has got like an abundance of knowledge that he's, that likes to impart. But, you've also got Terence Crawford kind of in your corner as well. Big supporter of yours. I know you support him. When did your relationship with Bud begin? Okay, the first time I met Bud was at the USA Nationals. I was already professional, but I just went to see. But that was the first time I met him, and then after that we just were cool. His girl is from Chicago, so he comes up there sometimes, and he would just hit me up, and be like, "Yo, I'm in Chicago." So one time he hit me up, and I was like, "Yo, you got your stuff, like your training stuff?" And he was like, "Yeah." So he came up to the gym and we sparred, and that was the first time we ever sparred, and he whooped my ass. But I'm competitive, so he liked it. Like, he just was like, "You remind me of me, like how I took like that, and I wanted to get it back." So ever since then, we just been cool. You mentioned earlier about one of the things you love about Chicago is like the food culture. Did you take Terence out for food or anything like that? Do you guys, did you any restaurants? Nah, we never really went out in Chicago. He just he'll just hit me up and he'll come by to see me whenever he's in town, or like we'll go. Like I met him. He came out there when we had the NBA All-Star weekend there, and we just rode around a little bit. We never really went anywhere. We just always make sure when he come to Chicago, we always make sure he come see me, stop by, have a quick maybe Well, like with Terence, I was in the press row for the fight he had last year with Errol Spence, and I'm not talking about just boxing or just sport, but in all entertainment. I think that was the best live experience I've ever seen. What Terence,
Yeah, I was there. It was
what he did to Errol. That people were saying that was a 50-50, and it was anything but. It was such an elite, high class performance. I was just so impressed with, I've been lucky enough to see a lot of, big fights. Joshua Klitschko, Joshua Usyk. There's been some good ones since I've moved over here in America, but I think I'll go to the grave thinking of that. Do you think he can ever replicate that? And then do you think he can, who do you think he would be able to replicate that against?
I think he may be able to replicate it, but I don't think the shock factor from seeing that would be there. Because I think now, after seeing that, that's what people are going to expect from him every time. So I don't think the fact that, like, the shock factor in people's minds will be there. Like, he may replicate it, may even do better, but no one will say it was better or say it was the same thing, because that's just the expectations that he's put out there for himself now. So I honestly, I feel like now with him, nothing will ever be good enough for people. Like, people are always going to nitpick because of what he did that night.
I kind of agree, because I was at his fight for Israel Madrimov on August the 3rd, Riyadh Season's first show in the US. And he went the decision. I think people were thinking, he'd finish Madrimov, but then when you speak to fighters, Tim Tszyu, he's been training out in Vegas. I spoke to him about it, and he thought Crawford looked great.
Yeah, I watched it. I thought it was competitive, but I thought he was winning most of the rounds. Like, it was a competitive fight, and I just think people were coming off of that high horse of what happened in that Spence fight, that they just forget that it's actually boxing. You actually in there with another person. It's somebody trying to stop you, and you got to make adjustments. You got to do certain things. Every fight not gonna be the same.
Do you think he can get the Canelo fight? Because that would be one of the best-selling events that I think bar sport can kind of produce right now.
I don't know. I don't know about if you can get it. I like to see it just because I know him, and I know I've seen him in the ring with much bigger guys. So I'll be interested to see it. I think he can pull it off.
What's the kind of learning? Yeah, you said the first time you sparred with him, like, he whooped your ass, but what have you learned from, like, the way he either conducts himself outside the ring or inside the ring, like when it comes to boxing? How he handles the stage. Is there any takeaway that you've got or that you've had from being around him?
Most of my like learning from him comes from boxing, like boxing him, or him just being in the gym with me, and just like the camp I did. Like, I haven't been in the gym with him in a while, but I learned a lot like that when I was in the gym with him. My camp when I fought Elvis Rodriguez, I did half in Houston. Then the second half I went to Colorado when he was out there with his team and stuff. So he was just around. He'd just like pull me to the side. He'll say something, or he'll see me working. He'll say something. And then I was in camp with him. I was the main sparring for him when he fought Amir Khan. We were doing like a lot of rounds together, and I was just like, I learned stuff about myself, like what I'm capable of. And he'd tell me like, yo, you good at this. Like, don't ever stop doing this. Don't ever. He'd tell me what I'm good at. And then over time, I just realized like, yo, he right. Like, I could do that with the best of them. Like, so he was just remind me of what I'm good at, and what like would get him trouble if we box. He'll tell me. Like, he not one of those guys that's like, we sparring, and he don't want me to know what give him trouble. He'll tell me what get him trouble so I could do it more, so he could try to figure out how to stop it.
Yeah. And bringing it back to you, boss man, your fight November 16th. It'll be your second of the year, second under the Golden Boy banner. I think earlier in the call you said you wanted activity. So, like, what do you want 2025 to bring you? Whether that's activity, a key rivalry, a fight in Chicago, world title. What do you want out of sport in the next 12 to 18 months?
I want big fights. I want the biggest fights, biggest names. Our world title, that's always a dream. I just want the recognition of people knowing that I'm the best. I'm one of the best, or however you want to put it. I think 2025, once I take care of this business, November 16th, I think the sky's the limit. 2025, because Oscar Duarte is one of the top guys in the division. He gave Ryan a great fight. So I think just going out there and just sticking to the game plan like I plan to do, and I want to go out there and dominate. I want to go out there and handle that fight even more easily than Ryan did, because I guess that I can use that as a, not me using it as a measuring stick, but for just the people watching, because I know what I don't need a measuring stick, but just for people talk's sake, they can say, oh, Kenneth Sims did this. So that's 2025. I just want to show that I'm one of the best in the world.
I'd love to see it. All right, Fight Fam, that was Combat X and the boss man, Kenneth Sims. Check his fight on Latino Night against Oscar Duarte, live on DAZN for free, and you can check Combat X on Roku, Prime, YouTube, Zumo, Vizio, Sling, and Fubo. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for joining the show, champ.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.